Morning guys, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. What I wanted to do today was I want to do a little bit of experimental archaeology, so to speak. In G. Hamilton's book called Camp Life in the Woods, he writes about several things that you can do to make your life easier in a woodland environment when you're running a trap line and things like that. And that's what his book really surrounds, is trapping and things like that, and camp life around a trapping camp. But he talks about fire and making fire and types of ignition in his book, and he talks about carrying a sunglass or a magnifying glass as one of his favorite ways of starting fire. Again, solar ignition, no use of resources there. As long as you got sun, you should be able to start something on fire. But one thing that he talks about for emergency fire starting is he talks about gunpowder use. And back in the day of Hamilton, I would say that the majority of the powder would have been black powder for sure. The majority of the firearms would have been cap lock type firearms. Now we did have, in the late 1800s, obviously, they started making paper cartridges, things like that. Model 1897 Winchesters, pump action shotguns were available in that time period, starting in 1897. But prior to that, the majority of guns were cap lock type black powder guns. And so I think that that's what he was talking about. They didn't have ferrocerium rods, although we do have those today, and we could use that very easily to affect spark to ignite our gunpowder. But what I want to do is I want to stay with tradition today, and I want to try to ignite it with flint and steel. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a fire lay here. I'm going to take a marginal tinder bundle of sorts and try to put some black powder in that tinder bundle, get that to ignite with flint and steel, and we're going to try to make a fire using black powder today. So stay with me. Okay, so we've got a small fire lay here, and I've got a tinder bundle in my pocket that's marginal, but not horrible, that I collected this morning. It's got some dampness to it, but it's not too horrible bad. I'm going to stuff it up inside of here like this, and I'm going to kind of give myself a little bit of a shelf right here, and that's where I'm going to attempt to put my black powder and ignite it. And I've got a small horn that I put in my belt pouch here. And it's actually set up as a priming horn, but it's got black powder in it. And I'm going to dump some black powder into this bundle. I don't want to overdo it, but again, I don't want to underdo it. So I probably didn't measure it, but if I had to guess, I probably put 20-25 grains in there. Then I'm going to make sure that I get that put back in my belt pouch here and secured before I move on to the next step, because I don't want any mishaps. I don't want that horn sitting out here like a little grenade when I'm igniting the rest of this material. So in my main fire kit, in my bush pot, is where my flint and steel is. I generally carry a ferro rod in my belt pouch along with a lighter and a glass, a sunglass. But I have a full-on flint and steel kit and char tin and things like that in my bush pot. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to throw some sparks down on this tinder onto this black powder and ignite this tinder and set this tinder bundle on fire. Now we'll just let it work for a minute and see what happens. Get our flint and steel put away here while we're watching. Let the wind help us. Got a little fat wood in there. Looks like that's catching on the bottom. That's going to help. Pretty wet. All of this stuff's fairly wet. It's right off the ground pretty much, but being stubborn today. Patience is the key. Just gotta keep pulling things from the outside and getting them inside. Especially any small stuff that's loose. Get that and get that toward the center. Now she's starting to take off a little bit here. Like I said, sometimes it just takes patience. Feeding those smalls in. Alright folks, I appreciate you joining me today for this short experimental video basically on ignition with black powder. I thank you for everything you do for me, for my school, for my family, and for everyone associated with the Pathfinder School Self-Reliance Outfitters. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks guys.